Good morning, everyone. So, today we have gathered here for the discourse on unexplored avenues in dialogue. So, in short, I'll give you some introduction about our institute. Our institute, Somaiya Bharatiya Sanskriti Peetham, seeks to promote and propagate eternal values enshrined in Indian heritage and thereby endeavors to cultivate the spirit of peace, harmony, and universal brotherhood through value education, interfaith meets, and dialogues, and similar educational activities so as to nurture an integrated view of Indian heritage for classes and masses. Even the Hindu-Christian interreligious dialogue is a salient feature of the Peetham. The Peetham believes in the true spirit of tolerance and reverence for all the faiths. The Peetham has been working as a nerve center of the Hindu-Christian dialogue in India. The honest and earnest attempts of the Peetham to establish an open platform for Hindu-Christian interfaith dialogue have been appreciated by the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue, Vatican. On the same line, today we have gathered here for a conference. So, as per the tradition of Somaiya Vidyavihar, we begin all the programs with the campus prayer. So, I request all of you to please raise for the campus prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Ishavasyamidam sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha Magrudha Kasya Svidhanam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Om Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Bhirvajinivati Dhina Mavitriyavatu Om Chodayitri Sunrutanam Chetanti Sumatinam Yajñam Dadhe Saraswati Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrutyorma Mrutangamaya Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkhamapnuyat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. As per the tradition of Somaiya Vidyavihar, I request Dr. Kalacharya to come here for Sanskrit invocation and welcome address.
वागर्थव्य संपृक्तो वागर्थ प्रतिपत्तये जगत पितरो वंदे पार्वती परमेश्वरो. आंतरधर्मीय संवादे अभिनव मार्गः इति विषयम् अधिकृत्य इयं परिषद आयोजिता अस्ति. तत्कृते डॉक्टर थेरेस हेंडरसन महाभागा अत्र आगता अस्ति. तथैव डिक्लान ओ बन महाभागः अत्र अचिरादेव आगमिष्यति. तयोः हार्दं स्वागतम् अस्ति. उच्यते यत् धर्मः जगतः प्रतिष्ठा इति. यदि धर्मः जगतः प्रतिष्ठा अस्ति, यदि सदाचारः इति एकः एव धर्मः अस्ति यत् जगते प्रतिष्ठां ददाति तर्हि संवादः केन सह करणीयः? धर्मः तु एकः एव, सदाचारः इति एव सर्वत्र धर्मः, अथवा स्वकर्तव्यपालनम् इति एकः एव धर्मः। यद्यपि इदं सत्यमस्ति तथापि अस्माभिः अनुभूयते यत् जगति अनेकाः धर्माः सन्ति। यदि जगति अनेकाः धर्माः सन्ति, भिन्ना भिन्ना धर्माः सन्ति, तर्हि तत्र किं भवति? एकः धर्मः व्यक्तिविशिष्टसमुदायस्य अभ्युदयहेतवे कार्यं करोति, अन्यः धर्मः अपि स्वव्यक्तिसमूहस्य अभ्युदयस्य कृते कार्यं करोति, तथापि तत्र कदाचित् कलहः अपि भवति, यतः स्वस्मात् भिन्नसमूहस्य कृते एतद् यत् कार्यं भवति तद् यदि कलहकारणं भवति, तेन किं भवति? एते कलहाः काले काले स्थाने स्थाने भवन्ति। ते कलहाः मानवजीवितम् अस्थिरं कारयन्ति। अतः धर्मसंवादः आवश्यकः। संवादः नाम किं? संवादः नाम न केवलं स्वमतप्रतिपादनं, संवादः नाम स्वधर्मोन्नयनम्, अन्यधर्म अनुयायिनां कृते पीडावर्जनपूर्वः व्यवहारः इति। अस्माकं भाग्यं यत् अद्य थेरेस् हेण्डर्सन् महाभागा तथैव बर्न् महाभागाः अत्र आगताः सन्ति। उभयोः हार्दिकं स्वागतमस्ति। Friends, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Therese Henderson from Scotland, and soon Dr. Declan O'Brien will join us, and to both of them I extend a hearty welcome. A warm welcome to you all on this occasion of the International Interfaith Dialogue on the theme that new avenues in interfaith dialogue. For this purpose, our Focolare friends have come, so hearty welcome to all of them. Now, when we say about the new avenues in interfaith dialogue or interreligious dialogue, why do we talk of new avenues? Interfaith dialogue or international dialogue is a term which is accepted or which is known to all of us nowadays. All over the world, interfaith dialogue. This theme, this particular expression is popular. Still, we are doing interfaith dialogues every now and then. Why? And why do we need to search for new avenues? I will just tell in very brief, in 2 minutes, the reason. We have to look after new avenues, because what happens that when we think of dialogue, we all speak of our own religion, and we sometimes speak of other religions also. We will say when we talk about dialogue, we know that we need not hurt others, etc., etc., and then we quote Vaishnava Janato Tene Kahiye, Hindus quote like that, or the Christians will quote whatever has been said in Bible. They will say that we should not hurt others and charity and all those things. They will quote many things, many expressions, beautiful expressions for that. It's all true. But what happens that why we have to look for new avenues is that we all think that dialogue is a mode of verbal expression. When we think about dialogue, we think that we have to speak on dialogue, we have to organize conferences, seminars, symposia, and we have to give beautiful speeches, and that is the dialogue. And we say that, yes, we agree with you. But what about the action? Actually, we have to think about new avenues in dialogue, because dialogue is not just the mode of expression, it is the mode of action. And what about the action? We take the same action as we speak? Are our actions coherent to what we speak when we are on the platform of dialogue? We have to reassess this thing. What happens that we all the nations, all the religions, they have their own policies, they work within their own framework, and then when the time of action, right action comes, we think twice. It should not happen, no? We know what is right action in dialogue, we know. So whether we take proper action to connect ourselves with other religion time to time, whether we have taken right action in the past, whether we are taking the right action in present, and whether it will be the same in future, and whether it is coherent about to what we have already said. That is the thing for which new avenues have to be sought. And to me, new avenue is just the right action. Thank you very much. The experts are there, so they will speak on this topic. Thank you very much. Now, once again, I request Dr. Rudraksha Sakrikar to take the mic in his hand.
I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Therese Henderson. She has completed diploma in singing from Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama, Glasgow. She has also completed diploma in double bass from the same institute. She has completed 5 years study of composition with Maestro Rudolfo Ciccionesi of the Conservatorio Cherubini of Florence, Italy. And she is a good musician, but not only in music, she has also a degree in philosophy. She is bachelor's BA honors in philosophy from University of London. And she is working as a professor in the Sofia University Institute, Lopiano, in Sisa, Vallardano, Florence. And she is taking the course on music, relations, and creativity. She has contributed also in the field of research. She has authored more than 4 books, and there are more than 7 to 8 articles for her contribution. I request our speaker to come here and share her thoughts with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for this welcoming. When I came in through the gateway of the university this morning, I immediately felt such a warm, welcoming atmosphere. And I was saying to one of the colleagues here that I think it's because of you, because of the people who work here, the people who have made this atmosphere for the students to come into. So I thank you for this. This morning, I had agreed with Dr. Declan O'Byrne, whom we work together with quite a lot, that he would begin with a sort of general opening, and I would go in with a particular way of drawing from my musical background, but the traffic has decided something else. So we will start from a particular and then open up to a wider. When I read the title which Dr. Kala Acharya sent us for today's conference, I thought immediately of the many pathways being explored today to further dialogue between people of different culture and religion. In my own field of music, there is the courageous experience of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, founded by Edward Said and Daniel Barenboim, an Argentinian, a Palestinian-American intellectual and writer, and an Argentinian-Israeli conductor, to give young musicians from Israel and Palestine the chance to live an experience of playing music together. One of the young people belonging to this orchestra, when interviewed, said, "I had never met a person from Palestine before in my life, but when you share the same music stand for days on end and play the same notes in unison with each other, you feel something change inside, and the other becomes part of you. In fact, the title of the documentary of this experience is Knowledge is the Beginning. Knowledge is important for deepening any relationship between people of different religions, but also to explore pathways of dialogue between the people, with the people we meet every day, in our everyday life, as you were saying, Dr. before. This is what I discovered when I first came into contact with the charism of unity of Chiara Lubich, who is the founders of the Focolare movement, which we belong to, who among many other achievements is also considered a pioneer in the work of interreligious dialogue. Today, I thought I could draw on two of her texts, which for me were illuminating, especially for facing the difficulties we meet every day. I would also draw on my own musical background to offer you an example which helps to go deeper into an understanding which goes beyond words. In the first text, she says, I felt that I have been created in gift for the one next to me, and the one next to me has been created by God in gift for me. On earth, all is relationship of love with all, each thing with each thing. It is necessary to be love, to find the thread of gold among beings. Commentating on these words, she added, we have been created as a gift for one another, and we fulfill ourselves by striving to love our brothers and sisters with a love that makes the first move, takes the first step, before any gesture of love on their part. This is what all the founders of religions, all the great founders of religions, have taught us with their lives. So, taking this into consideration, what should my attitude be in approaching each person I encounter with all their diversity, their pain, their joy, in all that they are? Chiara, in her writings, speaks very often of being empty of ourselves in front of each person we meet, but not an emptiness which is a passive void, but an emptiness which is full of love. It is an emptiness which is full at the same time. Chiara often quoted Descartes in his Cogito ergo sum, saying instead of I think, therefore I am, I love, therefore I am. Thus, I exist when I am nothing in front of the other. It is a paradox. Love makes you empty and full at the same time. A paradox only love can put together. She takes as an indication of how to put this into practice from the words of the scriptures. When Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you, the measure of his love was to give his life. Therefore, for Chiara, following her Christian teachings, the measure of an emptiness which is full of love is to be ready to give everything for the other. Of course, in our everyday lives, we are not usually called to die for other people, literally speaking, but maybe to die to ourselves in listening to the many people we meet during the day. This is why I was very happy when you spoke about action, which also begins from the small actions we live in everyday life. If we go to the Latin root of the word listening, it includes being intent and being attentive, and also means taking care of the person we listen to. This is much more than just hearing what they say. Francisco Torralba, a Spanish psychologist, in his book on the art of listening, indicates a few characteristics which help open up this concept. He says, listening is not just a random or casual act, but is intentional and comes from the wish to listen and from a free and personal decision to do so. Therefore, listening to a person does not mean only listening to the words they say, but to the tone of their voice, the expression of their eyes, their face, their body, and letting all that they are resonating in our inner self. When I teach music to my students, I often say, "How are you today?" And if they answer me, "I'm well," I always add, "Is there truth between the expression of your voice and the words that you're saying?" Because music is also based on this truth. If our sentiments are expressed in the tones, or if it's just the opposite. So it's very important in dialogue to put this into consideration so that we are sure of the sentiment of the person we're talking to, not just their words. Chiara Lubich describes it like this. Remember before we spoke about emptiness and fullness. She says, on nothingness, which means our emptiness, everyone can write. It is necessary to put ourselves before everyone in a position from which to learn. For in reality, we have something to learn. And only nothingness gathers all into itself and embraces to itself each thing in unity. It is necessary to be nothing before each brother and sister. I think music gives us a possibility to illustrate, and why not, also experience this in some way. Music can be like an icon showing us in a mirror what being and non-being in the same moment can mean. I think you agree with me, because I know in India, music is very important. Music, dances. Am I right? Yes. And I would like to see together with you a video where we could look at the musicians who are playing and see what we could gather from their playing. I would be very happy to hear from you also. But something to think about when we watch this movement of a Schubert quartet. For each person, their creativity is something sacred, something very important. So how can you say a person can be creative when they're empty? Is not creative synonymous with fullness, a fullness of talent? When we see these musicians who will play the quartet, the first thing we would say, no, creativity comes from fullness. Fullness of talent, study, strong and distinct personalities, people with a great passion for music who have given their lives to it. Concerts, travel, applause. But to be so synchronized, so in unison, each musician must empty themselves completely so as to enter into the music that they are playing. It is the music itself which welcomes their diversity and the great power of their unity, of their playing together. There's a few things we could note while looking carefully at their playing. It is interesting to see how the musicians listen to one another, how they put their bows on the strings for the beginning of a section, the quick look they have, how they play a crescendo together. They start from very quiet and they go up to very loud, or they accelerate, they change timing. There is no conductor in a string quartet. No instrument is more important than the other, and they pass the melodies on from one to another. You will see in a moment the first violin plays the melody, and the second violin plays something very quickly as an accompaniment. Then, after a few minutes, you will see the second violin playing the melody, and the first violin plays the accompaniment. So there's a kind of exchange. The melody is passed from one to another. I think we're almost able to see the dimension, emptiness in fullness, fullness in emptiness, in seeing each one welcoming the other, and the music is born from this welcoming. So we could watch it together, this movement, and I would be very happy to just hear a couple of your comments on this dimension, also referring to interreligious dialogue.
Please.
Thank you. I think you will agree with me that it is beyond words, but it tells us something very deeply. I'd be very happy if someone could say something before Dr. Declan begins on your thoughts of.
When I saw them performing, each one was in a state of flow. They are doing their bit extremely well. And there's almost like some sort of unspoken agreement. And they are communicating with each other without saying a word. And everything is just unfolding. It's very magical.
Since it is an aesthetic experience, and you said that we are there, being and non-being, that is why the Indian tradition always says that music is the divine art. Not only music, they say that all arts, they come from God. It is always a divine experience. And music and all arts are actually to be practiced to propitiate God, the divine.
It was a wonderful experience, and I found them almost lost in an active meditation. And for meditation, we need an alambana, a substratum, a basic on which we meditate. For them, the notation was there, which gave them a direction. But still emptying oneself, accepting that notation in perfection, and sharing it with others at the same time. Mastering for oneself and sharing for others, that was very much apparent from that, and that we have to practice. We have to have some notation in dialogue for us to follow, all of us, and then sharing within ourselves, and still sticking to the notation and still getting involved with each other. That is very important.
We call it as a Nada Brahma, Laya and Tala, which gives harmony.
I think someone would like to say something in this corner.
Basically on this, nothing to say, because whenever I am also a musician, I have learned Indian classical music, and similar to this, like violin and cello, these are the Western instruments. In India we are having sarangi as an instrument. So I play sarangi. I have learned in a traditional way. And whenever I feel that, may that be Indian music or may that be Western music or any kind of music, all the notes, like in India we say sa re ga ma, all the saptak, that is common for everything. So the language of music is beyond all the verbal languages. That is what we feel always.
You can show me afterwards. I'm very interested in Indian music. I remember from years ago a concert of sitar where they explained the whole concept, and I was very, very impressed. Unfortunately, my background doesn't, but I'd be very interested too.
Lots of beautiful messages that came out. One thing that just I'd like to say is that as long as those notes remain in the book, we can imagine what the music will be like. But since you are talking about new avenues in dialogue, and also Dr. Kala Acharya spoke about the right action, so it struck me how the most important thing is to pick it up and play. So we have in our different traditions, we are talking about dialogue, in our religious traditions, we have the notes. Very often it's not played, we don't practice it. And until and unless those notes come alive in people, we will not be able to see the harmony. It will only remain in the books. That's what came out.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's very important. It's like playing together. It's very important to hear what resounds, which comes back. So thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for enlightening us. it gives me an immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Declan Oban as our distinguished guest and second speaker of today. Um, he completed Bachelor of Arts in English and Philosophy at University College Dublin. He completed Master of Arts in Literature and Higher Diploma in Education in the same institute. Then he completed his Bachelor of Divinity from Pontifical Athenaeum at Milltown Institute of Philosophy and Theology. Then he completed License in Theology at Pontifical Athenaeum, Milltown Institute of Philosophy and Theology, and he submitted the thesis on the notion of person in the theology of John Gijolos. He completed his PhD in systematic theology at Methodist Institute of Education, Dublin City University, and submitted the thesis on Spirit Christology and Trinity in the Theology of David Coffey. After that, he completed his postdoctoral degree at Universitio Sofia and submitted the thesis on For Us and For Our Salvation on the dogmatic foundation for a Trinitarian anthropology. He worked as a teaching assistant at Methodist Institute of Education. Then he worked as lecturer and taught the topics History of Theology and Theological Anthropology at Dublin City University. Then he worked as a lecturer at Hekima College at Catholic University of Eastern Africa. Then he worked as a lecturer in theology at Tangaza College, Catholic University of Eastern Africa. He authored more than 4 books and published several research articles. His other academic activities are: he was the member of research committee at Tangaza College. He was the secretary of Department of Systematic Theology at Tangaza College. He worked as chief editor of Tangaza Journal of Mission and Theology. He worked as the member of the commission at Instituto Universitio Sofia. He was the member of International Study Group, Scola Abba. He was the member of editorial board of Nova Humanita. He was member of Scientific Committee of Sofia Global Studies. Now I request to Dr. Declan Oban to deliver the lecture on Unexplored Avenues in the Dialogue. Dr. Declan Oban.
Thank you. Sorry for our delay. I think you've encountered Mumbai traffic, so maybe you can understand. So also if something I say is unclear because I wasn't here at the beginning, maybe you can say, we didn't talk about that. Okay, so I tried to think about the 2 titles because this event had 2 possible titles. One was about the present crisis in religion, and the other one was Unexplored Avenues. And so when I put them together, I came up with these short thoughts. But I think the connection with your comment about music transcending words is a good connection, because words can deceive, especially in religious discourse. So I think this is something I'm also speaking about this. The crisis may be related to the fact that we don't always realize the possibly deceptive nature of words. I'm going to refer also especially to some authors in the Christian tradition, but just 3 actually, and the third is Chiara Lubick, and therefore I will end referring to the way she puts together some elements in a way that's very fruitful for dialogue. But I will begin with the possibly deceptive nature of words. The problem is that in religious traditions, I don't know if it's true of every religious tradition, but it's certainly true in the Christian religious tradition, and I think in other religious traditions, we have many words, we have many expressions, we have many formulae, ways of even constructing thoughts, and we can sometimes think that they give us immediate access to the divine. In fact, they give us access to the divine, but they don't give us immediate access to the divine. And it's very important to be careful about this, because if we think that the words and concrete expressions of our religious tradition are effectively equal to God or to the divine, then many negative consequences can flow. What can often happen is that we can assume that therefore we possess, because we have these words and we have these expressions and we have these rituals and we have these customs, we therefore possess the divine. But of course, this is impossible. These words and rituals can give us access, and this access can be real access. But God is always more. I think it would be interesting at the end. I would like to have the same honor that you gave to Therese, and you make some comments. But I think we can share this, that whatever word, however good it is not itself God, and we cannot understand that word. We can use it, and we can use it correctly, but we cannot fully understand what it means. From a Christian point of view, this should be very obvious to us. It's not so obvious to us. I don't think it's so obvious for members of religious traditions that there's a difference between the words and the reality. We always have to remind ourselves. From a Christian point of view, this should be obvious from especially the figure of Jesus, because it's true that according to Christians, this Jesus is God. That is what Christians say. But it's not so simple, because when I'm just going to use a moment in the life of Jesus that Chiara Lubick finds to be very illuminating, and I think it's illuminating for everyone, and maybe not just for Christians. This one who is identified as God, his final words, at least in 2 Gospels, are, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So, if we say this one is God, and then we say, but he is calling out to God and saying, why have you forsaken me? We should be very careful then to say, this is God. We have to say, this is God who has entered into the ignorance about God that humanity lives. You would think, okay, Christianity says he is God, and therefore we have met God, and therefore we know God because he has... But this is a human being, he has become a human being who appears not to know if God is present or if God approves of what he is doing. And he is dying on the cross and feels maybe his activity was wrong. You know, whatever he did, according to his religious understanding, should have brought him to be the king in Israel. That's what Messiah means, or Christ. Jesus Christ means the Messiah, it means the king in Israel. So what he was doing should have made him king. Instead, he has found himself on the cross, which is a place that only someone cursed by God can occupy. So of course he says, maybe God has forsaken me, maybe God has left me. But if Christians think about him, how can they think they know everything about God when the one that they call God doesn't know everything about God? This should be very central in our understanding. Not knowing everything about God, even while you are doing exactly what God wants you to do, even while you are in fact fully divinized, maybe it's a permanent state of humanity, at least it's the state that we know. So this distance between what we can know and God, who is almost always more than what we can know, it's quite well known within the traditions, the great thinkers of the tradition. The difficulty is not The difficulty is often that we have a superficial understanding of our religious tradition. I don't know if somebody here is a psychologist, social psychologist. I'm not a social psychologist. Let me just say something that I've learned from social psychology. The less you know about something, the more you think you know about that thing. This is called the Dunning-Kruger effect. They did this in universities and schools, and the people who thought that they did very well in an exam, in fact, did usually badly. And the people who thought they did badly usually did well. Because the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. So, if a Christian, for example, but I think it's just an example, thinks they know everything because they know the prayers and they know the words and they know the doctrines, maybe they don't know enough. Maybe the words and the prayers and the doctrines and the ideas are right, but they can't think that they possess them. So in the Catholic Christian tradition, the most solid point of reference that we have traditionally is Thomas Aquinas. In other words, if you want to say the most authoritative, then a lot of people will say this is Thomas of Aquinas. So a person might think, okay, he knows about God because he is the greatest and most authoritative teacher. What does he say? This is at the beginning of his major work. He says, we cannot know what God is, but rather what he is not. And we have no means for considering how God is, but rather how he is not. Maybe you can tell me if something like this exists in Indian traditions. I think so. But certainly this is something that for a Christian is very surprising. You think, now, Thomas Aquinas will explain God to me, I will learn his system, I will learn his words, I will be able to repeat them. If someone asks me a question, I will have the right answer. But he's saying we don't know what God is, we know what he's not. Now, what does this mean? Just some examples. There's no composition in God. That means there's no difference between any part. Or God is not a being in the world. For Christians, we will always tend to turn God into a being in the world. So then you can say, does God exist? And then actually they had some Russian cosmonauts who were atheists, and they went up in above the atmosphere, and they looked around and they said, there's no God, we did not see him. But this is because they thought that God was a being in the world. But when you say we don't know what he is, we include saying he is not a being in the world. He is the fullness of being itself, but not something we could find or prove is not true. Anyway, I think this is very important because the crisis in religion is often because some people think that they know too much. They have, with their tradition, understood everything, and therefore they don't need others. So I'm coming now to say something about Chiara Lubich in this context. Because I was not here, I don't know, did someone in the introduction speak about the fact that there has been a very interesting dialogue between Chiara Lubich and, have you spoken about this? So I'm not the person to speak about this, but Chiara Lubich is a very important 20th century Catholic founder of a movement, but also mystical writer and thinker. And she is simultaneously and surprisingly very deeply rooted in her Catholic Christian background, but also remarkably, she was very close to many people through many dialogues, and she has a long contact with Dr. Kalla and many others. who are still talking about her mystical writings and meeting, and even in these days we have had a chance. I hope somebody can say something about this. I'm not the right person. But to be very deeply rooted in your tradition and then to be very open to dialogue is a very interesting thing to do. She can do it because, I believe, part of the reason is because she really understood this key reality of the God who is Jesus, who cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me? And therefore she understands her own religion through this lens. This is a lens that causes you to be very open to what is more than what you think. You think this, but if what you think is Jesus who cries out like this, you know that you don't know everything about what God is doing. Like Jesus didn't know everything about what God is doing. So she, in 1949, 1950, 1951, had some very intense and prolonged and deep mystical experiences which she wrote down, and they have been studied by Christian scholars, but also Hindu scholars and others from various religious traditions. At one point, she said that there were 180 of these. Okay, so you can imagine 180 visions that she wrote down. A person like that, do they think that they know a lot about God? It's very hard to say yes. It's very hard to say no, I mean. But it's also important to say, this is how she ends. In when she spoke about it, she said, at the end of all of these 180 visions, I have a quotation here, so I want to look for it. At the end of these 180 visions, I heard the voice of God, and the voice of God was saying, what you have seen is not this way. In other words, these things you've seen, it's not like that. I, that is God, adapted the vision of the Trinity to your eyes, the vision of God to your eyes, to your dimensions. Because you are a creature, and you can't see with God's eyes. It is not how you have seen it, but you have it this way. This means the visions I have given you, they are really from me. So they are true, but they are adapted to you. What you have seen is true, but I have shown it to you in a human way so that you can see it. I think this is very important for dialogue. You can't say it's not true. I think the religious traditions give us things that are very true. But if you understand that what it has given us is not something that you can then possess, so that you can't learn from another person, so that you can't open yourself to God's ongoing action. If you can't do that, then dialogue becomes impossible. So if you lose what your tradition or your religion gives you, I think dialogue is impossible. If you possess in the wrong way what your religious tradition gives you, as though now you have everything, dialogue is impossible. In Cara's vision, and I think it should be in a Christian vision, this experience of Jesus is very important because it tells us that this is God who does not know God, does not know everything, but he is. So maybe the religious traditions give us things which are really true, but they need to open us to ever greater truth. Therese read a quotation from these writings of 1949. I want to finish with this. But I think the reason why she can write this is because in front of her mind is this Jesus who dies on the cross crying, my God, why have you forsaken me? She says, it is necessary to put ourselves before everyone in a position from which to learn. For in reality, we have something to learn. And only nothingness, she's thinking about Jesus who became nothing. gathers all into itself and clasps to itself each thing in unity. It is necessary to be nothing Jesus forsaken before each brother or sister. This is, I think it's a lesson for all of us. I don't think any of us have learned this lesson fully. Sometimes we show that we begin understanding it. In reality, we have something to learn. Dialogue, the word dialogue sounds like you have two people who already know something, who are going to exchange information. That's what it sounds like to me. You're swapping information. But maybe the word dialogue is a bit poor, if that's what it means, because I need to think that I'm going to learn something from the other person. It's not like I have everything and I will give to you and you think you have everything but you don't really, but I will listen to you out of politeness. I need to think that I'm going to learn from you, because I think that God is going to give me ever greater understanding and enrich my own understanding. I think that's a promising thing to remember in dialogue. You, rather than abandoning your tradition in order to embrace and say everything is the same, you look deep into your tradition. You understand that the tradition does not tell you that you possess knowledge of God, but that God is always greater. And then you open yourself to the action of God, which continues throughout history, and it brings us all to greater understanding, ever greater understanding. Okay, so that's my little thought. Is it possible to? What happens now? Do I ask for people to say something, or?
I have 3 or 4 remarks on what you have said. The first thing is that when you say that we think, means the human being thinks that they possess the divine, but in Hindu tradition, they do not think of possessing the divine. They always speak a lot about surrendering themselves to God. Mm-hmm. They don't want to possess the God. The other thing is that, as you have said, that words give access to the divine, and in our philosophy, especially there is one darshan, one system of philosophy which is grammar. It always makes it very clear that the word itself is denoting to some object, and the word and the object too are different things. If I say water, that is only the word, but the actual object is something different. Uh-huh. So these words indicate something. So words they won't take us to God in the same way as in normal life we will think of them. We have always to be sure that words are the vehicle. And about knowing God, we do not think of knowing God, we think of realizing the God, that is experience. Uh-huh. Because what we think that if we know the God, it is through scriptures we know. And as you have said that more we read, we think that we know, less we know. In our Upanishads also the same thing, exactly. The Brahmeva, he knows very little who thinks that I know the Brahman, the ultimate reality. He knows very little. Why? Because the words or the scriptures, by knowing God, we do not reach God. We have to experience, and that's why mostly our systems of philosophy think about realizing the God, experiencing the God, not only to have his vision. Even Plotinus also had experienced God himself. Mm-hmm. In his biography, it has been said that he has seen the God, he has realized the God. So we think of realizing the God, and as you have said that we think we cannot describe God by words. Yes, we also know that it is a very poor vehicle, and that's why in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, when it describes the ultimate reality, mm-hmm. it always says neti, neti, not this, it is not subtle, it is not gross, etc., etc. So all of us know the Indian philosophies or the Hindu scriptures know the limitations of words, and that is why always they think about the realization, realizing the God, and for that meditation is given importance. And the Yoga Darshan gives a systematic way that we have to how to meditate, how to fix our attention on a particular thing, and keeping all other objects aside, how to have our attention in concentration. We have to think about only one thing, and through that perhaps we can realize God or whatsoever we want, because yoga doesn't speak of God realization that way in which the Hindu, the other Vedanta, etc. speak, but we think of realization through meditation. Thank you very much. And as you have said that not by our eyes we can see God, as you have said, the Bhagavad Gita also says that Shri Krishna tells Arjuna that you cannot see me, that is God, by your normal eyes. I give you a divine vision for that. We need a divine vision for that. And it will come through constant study, detachment and all, and meditation. It takes a lot of effort on the side of man also. But here by grace, Arjuna is getting that. Thank you very much for such a nice speech and thought-provoking.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the 180 visions which you described about the mystical thinker, Kararbik. And what we say that what we see by naked eye, it is a Bahya Chakshu. And what we see inside, that is the Antar Chakshu.
The anti.
So, I see the Atmaram in me, and the God is not anywhere else. He is within me.
Otherwise, you won't understand.
Anta Chakshu is inner eyes, and Bahya Chakshu is outer eyes. And you said regarding the words, we say that Amantram Aksharam Nasti. There cannot be a mantra even without a single word. At least there has to be Om, isn't it? Even that syllable is necessary for a mantra. Then we say, Nasti Mulamanam Aushadam. There is no remedy for what is deeply rooted in your heart. Ayogya Purusho Nasti. Yojakat Tatra Durlavaha. That is, no one is incapable of doing anything. He is capable of something, but somebody has to find out he is capable of what. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add what Kala said, that in our tradition, God is expressed like that only, that we don't know. And just like in the case of Jesus forsaken, you said that Jesus may be interpreted as whether he has known God. We see Jesus as God, but still in his last utterances, we may feel that whether he fully knew God, like that you said. So in our very first scripture, in Nasadiya Sukta, it is said that the Creator who created this manifest and this wonderful word, whether he knows about himself or not, he himself knows about himself or not, that doubt has been raised. So there is always a question of understanding God and realizing God, even if it is expressed in words. So many words are there to express God. And again, all personal God, personal being. When we condition God to a person, to a personal being, almost all those avatars of God are forsaken in the end. That is a common theme, because Lord Krishna, he was a God for us, for everybody. But still he met his last days in a wilderness without being noticed by any other people as God. Lord Rama also had to leave everything and go. So the sense of being forsake or to forsake everything is there in case of all personal gods, but not that impersonal ultimate reality, because for that impersonal ultimate divinity there is nothing to abandon because it is everything. So there is no sense of forsaking or being forsaken in that case.
They will ask us. So later on they will be
I'm Rajshekhar Pillai, looking after the university.
Yes.
Vice Chancellor of the university.
Okay.
Of course, I am not an expert in the field. I can only be a listener. Thank you very much.
Okay. Could maybe I will just thank you very much. Say this. So what you are confirming is that if you go into depth in a tradition, you will learn that the words can be deceptive, but not everyone knows this. Not all Christians know it. I don't think all Indians know this. I don't know, but I think that the philosophers and the scholars help others to learn these things. But I suspect that a lot of the things that we call crisis in religion are related to not really knowing our traditions. And when we don't know our traditions, the traditions can be manipulated and turned into ideological tools for political manipulation. I come from Ireland, and in Northern Ireland for about 30 years there was a conflict, and they said these people are Protestants and these people are Catholics. And in fact, they were Protestants and Catholics. But if you asked them for a theological explanation of what the problem was, nobody knew. Usually it's ignorance that causes problems like this. So I don't think it's an unexplored path in dialogue, but certainly it's a key to dialogue and to resolving the crisis is to learn more about ourselves and to think that maybe we can learn in the encounter with others.
Yeah, here I want just to bring to your notice that we don't say that the scriptures or what philosophers have written is of not importance. We will never say that. It is already pointed out in our scriptures that first one has to listen from his guru. He has to study all the scriptures. Manana and means all, he should ponder over them. But once he has mastered the scriptures, then it has been said that just like when we travel, when we go, we ride on a boat, and then when we cross the ocean, we do not stick to boat, we abandon it. In the same way, once he has assimilated, digested the message of the scriptures, he has to leave them away. He has to leave them away because later on he has to meditate and he has to get his own experience. So at a particular stage, the scriptures and all the texts of philosophy one has to keep aside. But they are important. That they always say that they are important.
Yes. That's what I'm saying that. I'm saying that we need to have better knowledge of these things in order not to possess them in an ideological way which causes problems, even in our countries. Okay,
Is
No, I just want to congratulate and wish you the very best on this dialogue. Probably what is lacking in our society is lack of dialogues. And this culture, Indian culture, is very famous for its openness, putting across ideas. We talk about spiritualism, we talk about atheism, and also in our scriptures we have there are characters who totally abandon God and all that. So this is a culture which is promoting maximum dialogue about all type of thinking. Whatever is happening in the whole world, there is a cross section in India. Whether it be a political party, whether it be an ideology, whether it be a thinking process, all this you will find cross sections of the society in India. That is the beauty of this Indian culture. And I am very confident that dialogues of this kind which Sanskriti Peetham is organizing will promote the culture of dialogue and then strengthening our civilization through the culture of dialogue. Let me wish you the very best. Let me, on my personal behalf and on behalf of the university, extend the experts a warm welcome to our campus. Our institution, Somaiya Vidyavihar University now, we have been in existence for the last 7 decades. We work in the area of education, we work in the area of health. If you just look at the names of the 2 campuses itself, this campus is called Somaiya Vidyavihar, Vidyavihar means garden of education, garden of knowledge, Vidyavihar. And the other campus is called Ayur Vihar, that is the garden of health, Udyan of health. So the overall emphasis is to promote education and basic education, of course advanced education and health. And we also believe that if we concentrate on primary education and health, we can empower the society in all its perspective. We look at knowledge, we look at opportunities for providing knowledge, we look at opportunities for providing skills, and we believe that the knowledge and skills are only the text of education, and this text of knowledge and skills need to be applied to the society for enhancing the quality of life and life management systems. And only a person who has the knowledge and skills with an understanding of the context of the society can apply the knowledge and skills in the right perspective. And the context of the society is not just determined by knowledge and skills alone. Context of the society is determined by a number of other factors: our religious thinking, our cultural backgrounds, social milieu, changing times. All these things contribute to the context of the society. We believe that this context of the society changes from time to time, changes from place to place. It is very dynamic in nature, and dialogues of this kind is to provide context of the knowledge and skills which we are offering to the educated people. I wish the program all success. Thank you very much.
Friends, I am here to offer the formal vote of thanks. The vote of thanks is a formality in all programs. For us, when members from Sophia School and Focolare come to us, it is not just a formality. It really becomes an act of love and gratitude for the people who come with the message of Kiara and a lot of love to us. he had to go through so much of traffic. So it needs a lot of love and patience to keep your cool and then giving such a wonderful lecture. So I thank Dr. Theresa for showing us the power of music and the message which even transcended the music, which transcended the quartet, which played beautifully and which highlighted the message and the spirit of dialogue, where emptying ourselves is required to allow the fullness of love, divine love in us. So I thank her very much. And then I thank Dr. Declan Oban because he put some very subtle messages for which we have to look beyond the words, and looking beyond the words, we have to deepen our own tradition. We have to be firm in our tradition, and for that, we don't claim to possess our tradition, and we have to deepen our understanding and realization of our own tradition and enrich ourselves from the dialogue with others. So wonderfully he put this message to us. So I thank him very much from the bottom of my heart. I thank all the members of Focal Array who always give us opportunity of such a wonderful exchange and dialogue, and they make it a point from their busy schedules to attend and come to Vidyavihar and attend those programs. I thank them very much. And again, all other, our own, I don't say students, they are our, in a way, friends and colleagues who join such wonderful programs. And I thank them very much for making it a point to come and share this wonderful experience of today. I thank Professor Rajashekharan Pillai, though he has left. In spite of his busy schedule, he made it a point to come here and share his views. So I thank all others who are involved in arranging this program. Such a wonderful morning for all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and come again to this campus.
Dr. Byrne must have, because of the traffic, said that act of love that kills. But now on the third floor in Sanskriti Peetham, there is lunch for one and all. Everyone, including the students, please come and enjoy the lunch, and please give us your company for lunch. Thank you.
I congratulate you all for choosing this day. February 4th is a World Cancer Day. So the carcinogenous thoughts, we are going to get rid of that.